What's going on, world? Your man T-Ray the Violinist here, and I want to welcome you to the very first episode of the Power to Win podcast, where we collectively as a community tap into our power to win. If you don't know who I am, my name is T-Ray the Violinist. I am a performing and recording artist, former full-time music educator turned full-time entrepreneur and recording and performing artist, and we are here for the Power to Win podcast. How did we get here, you probably wondering. So through my journey as a full-time entrepreneur and artist, I found myself working through different situations, just like we all do personally and professionally. And a lot of those situations have added value to what I do as a person, as an artist. And I wanted to figure out a way, how can I help and empower other people and instill value outside of just performing? So I started a Motivational Monday series on my social media, and I would just do a 1-minute reel talking about a particular subject matter just to kind of get people prepped for the week. And that ended up growing and evolving into me writing a workbook entitled The Power to Win, which you see here. And what I wanted to do is touch people in relatable subject matter and help them to grow and do the introspective work. So that is how we got here to the Power to Win podcast. And this is episode 1. And I think in the spirit of it being the beginning of 2025, Happy New Year to everyone out there. And just thinking about what it is that we want to accomplish this year and beyond, is super important for us to just start. So today's subject and topic is going to be about just starting. Myself, I've had a lot of issues with just starting different things, whether it's a project or just making a different, a change and transition in something that I wanted to do. And I'm sure a lot of you out there can agree with that and relate to that in your own lives. So today we're going to talk about, just starting and some of the things that we deal with as humans, whether you are a full-time entrepreneur or you work within a business and employed and part of a team. These things are applicable both personally and professionally, and that's one thing I want to concentrate on for this particular podcast. So why is it so hard for us to just start things, right? I think about this podcast. I've been thinking about this concept and this idea for some months now, and for whatever reason, I just didn't do it, right? And one of the things I thought about was, analysis paralysis. So we can get caught up in thinking about everything that we want to happen and that we need to do. Everything needs to be in perfect timing and all of these just different scenarios. And what inevitably happens is we get paralyzed because we do not take any type of action. So what I realized was what was stopping me from starting the podcast. I felt like, okay, I don't have the high tech quality, high tech camera gear. I don't have the proper podcast mic. This is a mic that I've had for some years, and I just use it to record my violin and vocals and things like that. Just various things, right? So what I realized was that just like I started my career as a full-time artist, violinist, and musician, and I didn't have the full business plan laid out. It was just important that I just started and put one foot in front of the other. So analysis paralysis is something that we commonly deal with when we just want to start something. And as we begin the new year in 2025, I want to encourage you to not think about the final outcome. Think about your goal, think about what you want to accomplish, but don't get so caught up in the nuances of making sure that everything is perfect. And in the words of Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher, he says there will never be a perfect time and place to do a great thing. He says you have to create that perfect time and that perfect place. So right here today, right now, while you're listening to this is your perfect time. This is your perfect moment to take that first step, and do not let analysis paralysis get in your way. We think about the reasons why we want to start something, right? So a lot of times we get so caught up in trying to figure out what step 1 through 5 is going to be, right? I want to encourage you today, think about just one step. Take one step. Write down one step that you're going to take to get closer to the goal that you want to accomplish and the thing that you want to start. Because as we know, momentum creates progress, and that momentum just continues to accumulate and creates compound interest for us to be able to move forward. Perfection and timing, we talked about that. Fear of failure. This is a big one. We often have a fear of failure when it comes to starting something new. And if you think about a moment in your life that you started something new, whether it was when you were a kid, or in young adulthood, or if you're more advanced in life, something that you just recently started, right? At one point in time, you knew nothing about that particular thing. You knew nothing about that subject matter. You knew nothing about that craft. The same goes for me as a violinist and as an educator. At one point in time when I was a kid and I first picked up the violin, I knew nothing, right? But after just continuing to show up consistently day after day, listening to my teachers, taking in information from various resources, and just having the support system, I continue to grow and evolve, right? So the fear of failure can oftentimes put us in a place where we don't think that we can accomplish something, right? But I want to tell you that it's super important that we do it and do it scared. And if you do it and you fail, you've learned something from that particular situation. You've learned what is going to work and what is not going to work. You learn from your mistakes, or in the words of the late great painter Bob Ross, not mistakes, but we call them happy accidents, right? So the fear of judgment. Fear of judgment is another thing. We live in a society where we are constantly being judged from the way we look, the things we say, what we wear, what we eat, how we speak, how we go about our workday, how we communicate with others. We're always going to be judged by somebody for how we do things and what we're doing. So I want to encourage you to just think about what it is that you want to accomplish, and do not worry so much about the judgment that is going to come with that thing. I want you to concentrate solely on putting forth the effort to maximize and create momentum and just starting whatever that thing is that you want to do. Fear of the outcome. And this kind of ties in with fear of failure. We can often think about, okay, if I do this, what is going to be the outcome of this particular action that I'm going to take, right? And the truth is, you won't know until you take that action and create the outcome, right? So as you go through your process to create your objectives and make actionable steps to reach your goals, don't think so much about the outcome. Be optimistic that you're going to have a great outcome, but don't get so caught up in wondering what the outcome is going to be. Stay engaged in the process, and the outcome is going to take care of itself. And we talked about how we can combat these things. It's all truly about the mental space and the mindset that we take going into any particular goal. So, like I said, it's the beginning of the year. We all have goals and things that we want to accomplish this year. I'm not a big believer in resolutions, because I feel like resolutions are very fleeting, and it's very, very hard to make a big, quantum leap of a transition from December 31st to January 1. You can't just start. I'll just use food, for example. You can't eat junk food, and just binge out, and then the next day say, all right, cool, I'm done. I'm just going to start eating salads, and, I'm going to eat super clean. It doesn't work that way. You have to have an actionable plan in place, a realistic plan that's going to help you make sure that you have the best probability for the best outcome in what you're doing. So what I want to also talk about is how you can go about just starting, and how you can make momentum work in your life. So the first thing is, I don't have a pad here, but I have an iPad, but I'm big on writing things out. So analog, just paper, pen and paper. And I want you to do this after you finish listening to this podcast episode. I want you to write down one goal that you want to accomplish this year. If you've already written it down, great. You're already past step 1. But I want you to take a moment to write down one goal that you want to accomplish. And we're going to think about the things that we can do just in this month, and then just in this particular week, whatever week you're listening to this podcast, and then just in one particular day. So we're going to break down how we're going to go about attaining the goals and just starting what we want to do. So I want you to take a moment to write out one goal that you want to accomplish, and I want you to write out one actionable step that you can take to start that goal. And it doesn't have to be anything that is, like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be these big quantum leaps and extremism, because I'm speaking from experience when it comes to extremism. Like, I'm going to run 20 miles this week, or, I'm going to work out and, I want to be shredded by the end of the month, when that's not the reality. The reality is it took a long time for my body to get out of shape. And now I have to take the time and the proper process to get it back in shape. So think about small actionable steps that you can do that may only take 5 or 10 minutes a day. So take actionable steps, write those down. The next thing, track your progress. Make sure that you're actively tracking your progress. Once again, I'm a big fan of pen and paper. So if you track your progress via pen and paper, or you write it in your phone or a computer, whatever it might be, just find a way that's going to work for you to track your progress, because that's going to help you continue to build that momentum. Because when we don't see the results, when we don't see the progress that we're making, it's super easy for us to get caught up in our head and say, oh, well, I'm not making the progress that I want to make, or I don't see the progress, right? And remember, progress is built through small incremental changes, small incremental habits that you build over time. And the last thing, as we close out this episode about just starting, celebrate your wins. Take time to celebrate your wins. This doesn't mean you have to go out and party or buy a bottle of champagne or, make this big announcement. Just take a moment. It could be you by yourself. Just take a moment to say, man, I'm super excited. I'm super excited about the progress that I've made in this one particular area of my life to just start this thing. Like, think about where you were the previous week. Like, man, I'll use working out again. It's like, oh, I wanted to start running, right? So instead of trying to say, okay, I'm going to run 5 miles, in one day, and you never ran before, say, I'm going to start by taking a walk. All right. Then you're going to start by running. You're going to take a run. You're going to run half a mile. Then you start incrementally building on top of that, and you'll be able to look back and say, man, at one point in time, I couldn't run for 5 minutes. Now I can run for 5 miles, and it feels easy. And that's because you built up the momentum, and you built up, obviously, the physical muscle and stamina and endurance, but you built up the momentum day after day consistently to attain that goal. So remember, celebrate your small wins, celebrate your wins at large so that you can continue building that momentum. So once again, this episode of The Power to Win, episode 1, is called Just Start. And I hope that you have a great new year. If you find value in this, please subscribe, please share, comment, share with a friend or a family member that you know will benefit from it and take something from it. My channel is full of interviews, music performances, music videos. So feel free to browse and subscribe. And if you want to get your copy of the Power to Win workbook, you can find it on my website, traytheviolinist.com/the power to win. You can also follow me on Instagram at @T_Ray_the_violinist. And I will see you next time on the podcast. So once again, this is the Power to Win podcast. I'm your host, T. Ray the Violinist. Remember, progress is more important than perfection, and you have to keep building brick by brick, day by day to keep winning. I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.